Okay, College Bound staff. So what this one is this is a kind of recruitment tips that we might have for the new staff and just all staff in general, kind of what we want to follow in regards to recruitment. So as you can see, I'm on the Google Drive. If you want to find this, you go to your Drive, and then come down here. You would click on recruitment. And then you'll see kind of a whole list of things in here. You'll see there's some accepted letters, there's commitment statements we'd want them to sign. Someone feel free to modify some of those. There's some old language on there. Here's a recruitment presentation. These are just kind of images that can go into the recruitment presentation about how much money you make. These are group interview questions. Feel free to add to those. These are just real baseline. These are not accepted letters. Parent interview questions you might use, and then another letter that I'm not sure what that is. But anyway, so the one we're going to look at here is recruiting tips. So with this in particular, we've talked through some of this already, and I'm going to kind of end up just very quickly going over this and then going down towards the bottom and looking at some new additions here. Again, 2/3 of our students have to be low income and first generation. 1/3 can be either or. Then you want to identify an academic need that they have. You can look at some of those needs here going on the Drive and looking at this. Another thing, we kind of talked about the 10-80-10% breakdown, where we want to have a diverse group of students, ethnically, socioeconomic. Well, we are serving low-income students, but just a diverse group of students, but also a diverse group of students academically. Other different recruiting methods that you can follow. Refer to the College Bound teacher timeline to follow the recruiting timeline. You can find that, I believe, on the Drive under program documents. That will give you just kind of some key things that you need for the College Bound teacher timeline. And then you see these things as well. Here's the additional things that I've added. It's very important that we get these things. So regarding freshmen, we're perfectly okay to serve freshmen, because we can serve students from their freshman through their senior year, ages 13 to 19. However, there's a bit of a gray area regarding when we begin serving them. For most of our schools, we can serve a caseload of 35. With the FP schools, you can serve a caseload of 45. However, there's always a blip where there's an overlap with seniors. For example, if you accepted all of your freshmen in April, you would quit serving 35, and you accepted 12 freshmen, you would be serving 47 students at that time. The Department of Ed realizes that, and that's part of the scenario here, and it's a little easier to justify. So I know that we have the capacity to carry a larger caseload. For example, let's say you started recruiting September 1st and you added those students in and you had 35, you recruited 12 more, and so you were serving 47. I know we have the capacity to do that. However, that's where we kind of, there could be some issues in terms of a gray area there, where the Department of Ed has mandated that we serve a caseload of 35. We couldn't really say we're serving a caseload of 35 if they were all added in September. We would say we're serving 47. And then they could express concern that we're out of compliance because we're quote-unquote diluting our services. Now, I know it's true, and we could always justify with all of our academic contacts and the logs that you've kept. That's why it's important to keep those logs, that we weren't diluting our services, but it's something to strongly consider. It's easier to justify this blip when they're added a little bit later on. This is always a case-by-case situation, but we just ought to consider this when we're accepting students. Second thing, make every effort to accept all of your students and have a first contact with them before May 15th. This is important for our annual performance report in terms of which cohort they are counted with. So, for example, if we accept them after May 15th, we accept freshman A on April 20th, and then the other freshman B we accept on May 17th. They're going to end up being reported on two different cohorts. which we don't want to have happen. They need to be reported on the same cohort because they're both freshmen. So you want to make sure that you get them all in before May 15th and have a first contact with them. On the application, it says program entry date. That should actually be date of first service, and that's a change that we're going to make. And so you will put, when you do that application, you will put date of first service on the first day that you actually have a contact with them, and you should also have physical evidence that was their date of first service. So you had some sort of meeting with them one-on-one after they were accepted into the program, and they signed out on one of our contact sheets. If any of this doesn't make sense, please feel free to email me, call me with these things. So back to the sheet here. Further, when you accept someone before the May 15th deadline, it gives you a 60-day window to evaluate whether or not you want to keep them. If for some reason you accept a student and then within 60 days they've moved somewhere, you notice there's key motivation issues, or it just doesn't feel like it's going to work out, you're welcome to remove them within that probationary 60-day period. And we never have to report on them in the future. Now, if you keep them over that 60 days, if you kept them 61 days, their freshman year, and then they left, we would have to count them even when they go off to college. We have to count them. So we want to make sure we count the students we're serving. And so that gives you, those 60 days is very important. If you do it after May 15th, then you only have 10 days for that determination, which is a little harder to evaluate in 10 days. And finally, the last one here, after you have accepted a student, you must turn in a complete file to Amy. It's very important that we respect her and make her job easier for her and not kind of hand documents to her as they come in, but have a complete file and hold on to everything until you have a complete file. A complete file includes a complete signed application by the student and by their parent with income and first-generation status on it, and the staff eligibility checklist, or it's titled office use only. That needs to be completed by you, and I need to sign it. So ultimately, I should see the application and be able to sign it. You should have a student's most recent transcript, their test scores, and that's like their 8th grade MSP scores if you're accepting them in their freshman year. Their documented academic need, which could also be found on their transcript or their test scores, indicate that if that's the case. Or if it's something besides those two, then you will need to have a documented letter from a counselor or a teacher or something of that nature. And then a completed and signed teacher appraisal. That's it for this video. Again, if you have any questions, please let me know.